Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Yinz at the Point podcast. I am your host, Tyler Aaron. If you want to follow me on Instagram or Twitter, it is at TylerAaron65, or you can follow the show's Instagram or Twitter at PenguinsFan65, or also the YouTube channel Yinz at the Point. And so, in today's episode, we are going to be talking about my 2022-2023 NHL standings predictions. In the second segment, I will talk about the Penguin season preview. And to wrap up this segment, or this episode rather, we will look at the game preview between the Arizona Coyotes at the Pittsburgh Penguins to open up the regular season. So that is all coming up right after this intro. Alright, I am back here on the Yinz at the Point podcast, and I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the first segment of my 2022-2023 NHL standings predictions. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pretty much say where I think these teams are going to place in their respective divisions, and I'll tell you the teams who could potentially have a chance at making the playoffs. So I'm going to go ahead and start in the Metropolitan Division. So in the Metro, I have Carolina finishing in first, the Penguins finishing in second, the Rangers finishing in third, the Capitals finishing in fourth, the Devils in fifth, the Islanders in sixth, the Blue Jackets in seventh, and the Flyers in dead last. In the Atlantic, I have the Maple Leafs winning this division. In second place, the Florida Panthers. Third place, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Fourth place, the Boston Bruins. Fifth, the Detroit Red Wings. Sixth, the Ottawa Senators. Seventh, the Buffalo Sabres and the Montreal Canadiens in last. In the Central Division, Colorado will win this division again. St. Louis comes in second place. Minnesota in third. Nashville in fourth, Dallas in fifth, Winnipeg in sixth, the Blackhawks in seventh, and Arizona in last. And in the Pacific Division, the Calgary Flames, with their new cast of characters, still win the Pacific, with Edmonton coming in second, Vegas in third, LA in fourth, Vancouver in fifth, the Anaheim Ducks in sixth, the Kraken in seventh, and the San Jose Sharks in last place. So, moving on to whether or not these teams will make the playoffs. So, pretty much teams I are very confident in making the playoffs this year: Carolina, Pittsburgh, Rangers, Maple Leafs, Panthers, Lightning, Colorado, St. Louis, Minnesota, Calgary, Edmonton, and Vegas. Those are the teams that I think are going to be playoff locks in my book. Carolina being one of the best cup contenders. The Maple Leafs, they make it every year. I can't imagine them not making it without the likes of Matthews and Marner. It's just a matter of question is if they can get past the first round. Colorado, the defending Stanley Cup champions. Flames with their new cast of characters. Edmonton looks better than on paper than what they did last year. The St. Louis Blues really haven't done much, but I still think that they can get the job done. They single-handedly beat the Avalanche twice in a playoff series. So, in my eyes, based on St. Louis coming back in with that roster again, they should be able to make the playoffs. The Panthers, trading away Huberdeau, bringing in Matthew Tkachuk. I mean, it's definitely a different team that the Panthers got. I think that they significantly got worse. It was hard of a debation between having the Panthers finishing in second or third. I decided that the Panthers will fit in that second place in the Atlantic. The Penguins in second. On paper, they're second, third best team in the Metro. They're an older team by means, but the Penguins just they have that veteran experience. They have that playoff experience. It's been 17, 18 years since you last missed the playoffs. So, and I don't expect that to be broken this year. New York Rangers got worse a bit, especially in the goaltending position. Losing Georgiev and bringing in Yaroslav Halak, big downgrade. You lost Tyler Mott, Andrew Kopp, those players like that. Tampa Bay made it to the Stanley Cup Finals 3 years in a row. They're going to try and four-peat that and to be the Eastern Conference champions. Minnesota, did they get better on paper? By my means, no. They lost Kevin Fiala due to the cap crunch. Marco Rossi has made the team for the Wild, which is a big bonus for Minnesota. And it's just Fleury, like their goaltending's gotten a lot better with Fleury and Gustafsson in goal with that matter. And then in the last team I have as a playoff lock is Vegas. As long as injuries don't hurt them as much this year, then it should be an easy playoff lock for Vegas, especially with that Pacific Division being so weak. So those are my playoff locks. Now, moving on to the wild card teams, I'll give just a few teams if they can make it as a wild card team. The Capitals, the Bruins, the Predators, the Kings, the Canucks, the Stars, and the Red Wings, and possibly the Devils. Those are the next two I have for potentially making it to the wild card, if not just missing in that matter. Starting off with Washington, I just ranked them so high just because I know the Capitals, they're like the Penguins. They have playoff experience. They're a veteran group. Sure, that injuries are really going to bother them this year, but I just can't back down on Washington quite yet, considering that they have the same structure as the Penguins do. The Boston Bruins I could see as another wild card team, even though all their star players are pretty much out till December, January. I still think that they can get that job done in a competitive Atlantic Division relatively, but we'll just see how goaltending plays out with Boston, because that's their biggest question. Nashville, off to a hot start, 2-0, but then yet you're playing the San Jose Sharks. UC Saros, for sure going to be a Vezina finalist, maybe. Roman Yossi's always up for the Norris every year. And they got better on paper. They got Nino Niederreiter on a steal of a contract. They got Ryan McDonough in a cap dump trade with Tampa. I mean, it's looking good this year for the Predators, and a much better team on paper than what we saw last year when they got swept in the first round. The LA Kings almost made it to round 2. I expect the exact same, especially since they got better on paper. Their prospects are ready to come up, like Brant Clark and all those guys. Quentin Byfield getting ready to come up too as well. You add Kevin Fiala to your top 6. It's all looking great. Vancouver Canucks, first full season under Bruce Boudreau. It's exciting to see after they locked up JT Miller and all that. Currently on contract extensions with Bo Horvat. Thatcher Demko, another one possibly on a Vezina finalist if he has a great season. And so I think Vancouver can make a push for those wild cards. The Dallas Stars, a little bit of questions of the air. I think that they'll actually just miss and in the playoffs in that matter. Detroit, another one, and the Devils, both are the same. They can just make it or just barely make it. Like Detroit's gotten way better on paper, adding Cott, Sherratt, Ville Husso, and net with Alex Nedeljkovic. David Perron's there now. So it's looking good for Detroit. Same with the Devils. You'll have a full season with Dougie Hamilton this year. Jack Hughes will be healthy. Hopefully he has a breakout season. And then Vitek Vanacek and Mackenzie Blackwood in goal. So again, those are the teams that I have as a wild card team or just missing the playoffs in that matter. So I'm going to talk about the teams that I don't think will make the playoffs, and then I will have a few teams that's pretty much tank for Connor Bedard year. So teams that I think will barely miss the playoffs: Islanders, Blue Jackets, Buffalo Sabres, Ottawa Senators, Winnipeg Jets, and the Anaheim Ducks. So with these teams, Islanders, they really haven't gotten better on paper after having a disastrous start to the season. The Columbus Blue Jackets getting better, losing Bjorkstrand, getting Johnny Hockey into Columbus. Again, I don't think it's Columbus's time yet. Ottawa, I know they added Giroux. I know they added DeBrincat. They added Cam Talbot in net, so they're confident in the goaltending position again. I think that they'll just miss. If Detroit makes it, I think Ottawa will be just behind Detroit. Again, I would love to see the Senators prove me wrong in that. The Winnipeg Jets, I feel like this is a make-it-break-it year for Winnipeg. It's either compete for a playoff spot or head into a rebuild mode. I think it's time for a new character assessment over there and euthanize the group. And then the Anaheim Ducks, again, with their young cast of characters, I don't think that it is their time anytime soon at all. So, again, nothing really much to say about them. And now I have 6 teams. It's pretty much tank for Bedard this year. Those are the Flyers, the Canadiens, the Coyotes, the Blackhawks, Seattle, and San Jose. Just to sum it up, all 6 of those, they're just looking to tank for Connor Bedard. They want first overall because I'm sure Connor Bedard will be that franchise player based on what franchise he ends up going to. Most likely, I can see him going to the Coyotes or the Sharks or the Blackhawks. Least likely, I'd have to say the Kraken and the Canadiens, mostly because the Seattle Kraken, I feel like, are out of that stage a bit, but they could potentially fall back into this tank for Bedard situation. The Montreal Canadiens got first overall last year. I highly doubt that the NHL would want the Canadiens to get back-to-back first overall picks. I would love to see Connor Bedard go to Arizona, only because with Arizona being up in the air on whether or not how long the Coyotes will be there, them playing in a college arena, I feel like since with the draft lottery that getting Connor Bedard would be their key to open up the city of Phoenix and hopefully, get into the arena again, build a new one. In Tempe, Arizona is probably where that's going to be, but those are my NHL standings predictions for this year. So coming up in the next segment, we are going to look at the Pittsburgh Penguins season preview, and then after that, we will look at the game preview for tonight's opening night matchup between the Arizona Coyotes and the Pittsburgh Penguins. So stick around for that, and that is all coming up right after this break. All right, I am back with the second segment of today's episode of the Pittsburgh Penguins season preview. So I have a few projections here that I'm going to read off of pretty much the Athletic grading the Pittsburgh Penguins team in general, what they project the Penguins to have points-wise, percentage at winning the Stanley Cup, making the playoffs, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into it here. So according to the Athletic, they have the Penguins forward group graded as a B+, the defense as a B+, and the goalies as a B with an overall of a B+. I don't remember what the Athletic graded the Penguins last year, but the forward group has gotten a little worse after losing Erod, after adding guys like Josh Archibald, Ryan Poehling, for that matter. Defense gotten a lot better. Goaltending should be a lot better this year with Pittsburgh after pretty much seeing in the preseason. Jari is playing on another level. DeSmith is more confident in his game. So the Athletic has the Penguins projected at having 100.3 points, an 81% chance at making the playoffs, and only a 4% chance at winning the Stanley Cup, which isn't that bad of odds. The Penguins most notably have a 24% at hitting 100 points, 21% at 105, 13% at 110, 5% at 115, and 1% at 120. And then going down, 19% at having 95 points, 11% at 90, 5% at 85, and 1% at 80 points. So, actually here I have last year's projection. They had the Penguins having a 96.2 projection, when the Penguins really in reality had 103 points. So, goals in my mind for the Penguins this season, just to stay healthy. The Penguins are always high when it comes to games spans lost and injuries, which really sucks. Get past the first round. Those are the two most notably things. Get your special teams got to get better with your power play and your penalty kill. If the Penguins played like they did last season, not taking as many penalties, then they should be okay in with the penalty kill this year. So some bold predictions for me. I think Danton Heinen could hit 20-25 goals. He had 18 last year, so it could happen. Tristan Jarry, and I see him having a lot better season this year, potentially being a Vezina finalist. I have Ryan Poehling, actually. I think he can hit 15 goals this season, which is absolutely insane based on what we've seen out of the Penguins coaching staff. Players or Penguins fans have been very low on guys like Evan Rodriguez, Cody Ceci. I'm trying to think of who else I can say here in this. Based on Mike Matheson, you could say. Danton Heinen, obviously. So, I can see Danton Heinen hitting 20-25. Now playing on the third line with Jeff Carter. I think Jeff Carter can hit 20 again. Jason Zucker plays most of the season this year and can potentially hit 30 goals. I think the Penguins will have multiple players over 40 goals this season. I could see Crosby, Malk, and Getzel hit over 100 points this year, depending on if they're healthy all season. Casey DeSmith, 920 save percentage or above. He usually is around a 915 save percentage. I think that he can get up to a 920. I'm going with the Penguins 43-44 wins this season. I feel like that's enough. I feel like the Penguins have a relatively easier first month and a half of the season, as they're playing teams that didn't really make the playoffs last season. So, again, it's all up in the air, bold predictions wise. I can always revisit these, 2, 3, 4 months down the road, see how right I am so far with these predictions, maybe revisit them at the end of the season. So pretty much like big questions here. Obviously injuries. Is Tristan Jarry the answer? I've covered him in a previous episode of me talking about that. How can Ty Smith get up here as soon as possible? I talked about that in the last episode. Ricard Raquel, 30-plus goals this year, maybe playing on that first line now with Jake Getzel and Sidney Crosby. He can really do some damage this year. Chris Letang can definitely have another career season like he did last year. He's still one of those defensemen who can produce at a high level, and I absolutely think that it could happen. So I think I've covered everything I've wanted to. So that is going to do it with my Penguins season preview here. So coming up in the final segment of this episode, we are going to look at the game preview between the Arizona Coyotes and the Pittsburgh Penguins, and that is coming up right after this break. Alright, I am back here for the final segment of today's episode of this 2-episode season preview skit, or whatever you would call it. So my final segment is the game preview for tonight's 7 p.m. puck drop matchup between the Arizona Coyotes and the Pittsburgh Penguins at the Paint Can at PPG Paints Arena. So I have the Penguins and Coyotes projected lines here. So for the Coyotes, on the first line, we have Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, and Boyd on the first line. Nothing really big with this. Clayton Keller will most likely be the Coyotes' best player this year after losing Phil Kessel. Those players. Second line, we have Krause, Hayton, and Cassian. Again, there's nothing much on this line either. Third line, Ritchie, McBain, and Fisher. And the fourth line, O'Brien, former Penguin Nick Bukestad, and Dylan Guenther. So the Coyotes' forward core, not the greatest at all means right now. So yeah, with that, moving on to defense. First pairing for the Coyotes, Shane Gostisbehere and Mayo. I really don't know much about Mayo, so I can't really say much about him. Second pairing is Moser and Timmins, two guys I haven't really heard of either. And then third pairing is Patrick Nemeth and Troy Stetcher. And then in goal for the Coyotes, we got Valimaki and Connor Ingram. So a little bit on the Coyotes. They didn't play well last year. They were one of the worst teams in hockey last year. So with the Coyotes getting a lot worse, again, I covered it in the first segment. It's tank for Connor Bedard this year. So, The Coyotes won't be much of a fight for any teams. Sure, can make it a bumpy ride at times, but it doesn't look like that the Coyotes will do much this season and just tank for Connor Bedard. For the Penguins, first line, Jake Getzel, Sidney Crosby, and Rickard Rakell. Second line, Jason Zucker, Evgeny Malkin, Brian Rust. Third line, Danton Heinen, Jeff Carter, Kasperi Kapanen. And the fourth line, Brock McGinn, Ryan Poehling, and Josh Archibald. Teddy Blueger is a game-time decision for this game. It doesn't look like that he'll be playing right now. Still no official announcement yet. But if that were the case, I don't know if Blueger did end up playing, if Poehling or Archibald would play that 12th forward. But as of right now, it is Poehling as the fourth line center and Josh Archibald as that 12th forward spot. On defense, first pairing, Brian Dumoulin and Chris Letang. Second pairing, Marcus Pettersson and Jeff Petrie. Third pairing, P.O. Joseph and Jan Ruda. Jan Ruda making his Penguins debut. Petrie making his Penguins debut. Also on the forward core, Josh Archibald starts his second stint with the Penguins, and Ryan Poehling makes his Penguins debut as well. In goal, Tristan Jarry gets the call to start, and Casey Smith is the backup for the Penguins. Again, I covered the Penguin season preview here. It's just a matter of how well the Penguins are going to perform tonight. Obviously, in the previous matchups last season versus the Coyotes, they were both relatively difficult games. The more difficult one being the one in Pittsburgh, where Arizona actually led at some points in that game. So, again, time will tell with this. First goal of the Penguins regular season, I'm going Brian Rust, actually. I think the second line could get this done with Malkin, Rust, and Zucker. I think that they will have the first Penguins goal this season, and I think the Penguins are going to win this one by the score of 5-1. I'm going goals scored by Brian Rust gets the first one. I think Jake Getzel will score one. Not Brock McGinn. Danton Heinen gets one. Malkin gets one, and Rakell gets one. And then the one singular goal by the Coyotes, I'm going to go Nick Ritchie for the Coyotes. And I think Tristan Jarry will make 30-plus saves and have above a .930 save percentage. So that's my prediction. I will leave a poll down in the comment section if you listen to this on Spotify. I'll ask you your score prediction. Hey, who do you think what the final is going to be? And tell me who do you think is going to score the Penguins' first goal this season. So that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you all for joining me with these back-to-back episodes here. Again, I said in the last episode at the end, instead of making one big, long episode, just break it up into two different segments. So this is your Penguins preview or season preview episodes, episode 19 and episode 20 of the Yinzers at the Point podcast. So that is going to do it for this episode. The next episode will be out on Saturday, October 15th, as the Penguins do battle against the Tampa Bay Lightning at the Paint Can at PPG Paints Arena. So again, that is going to do it with this episode. Let's go, Pens. I'll be watching. I'm hoping for a Penguins win, and I will talk to you all on Saturday.